I went into past life regression not really expecting anything, but I came out questioning everything. In 2020, I came across an Instagram post about past life regressions. And I had never thought about past lives or anything like that, but I was really curious, so I decided to give it a try. Hi, I'm Kennedy. This is Deeply Spiritual, Totally Human, where inner work meets real life. And before I tell you what happened, I'm going to define past life regression for you. So past life regression is essentially a guided process where either through hypnosis or deep meditation, you are able to reach a state where you can access past life memories or experiences. And for some people, this experience is like really spiritual, but for others, it's psychological. Either way, the point is to get to know yourself on a deeper level. Okay, let's get into the story. So once I read the comments and viewed the Instagram post, I was like, oh, this seems really curious. So naturally, I went and I researched it some more via Google, YouTube, etc. And I decided I just want to give this a try. I just want to see what happens. So I was trying to figure out like the best approach to it, because there are people that are certified in past life regressions that you can actually hire. But I didn't necessarily want to go that route because, again, I was just really curious. I wasn't really sold on the idea yet. So I found an app on the App Store, of all places. It had really great reviews. And I was like, let me just give this a try. So one night before bed, I turned on the app and I was like, okay, I'm prepared. So I did all of the guided processes, the breath work, the visualization, and I ended up falling asleep. Like nothing happened. I just fell asleep. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe you don't get it your first time. So let me just keep trying. So the second day I tried again. Nothing happened, but I fell asleep. So on the third day, I really didn't want to try again. At that point, I was like, maybe this just isn't the time in my journey for me to be able to reach that level of hypnosis or that level of deep meditation. So I don't want to try again. However, I really liked how deeply I slept after I listened to the music and the guided process on the past life regression meditation app. So I was like, I'm just going to turn it on to fall asleep. That was the third night. And I guess it was just the release of expectation that really allowed me to get there. Or maybe it was the amount of times that I had tried, but that was when it happened. So the first thing that came to me was an emotional experience. And honestly, that was something that I was not prepared for. I expected to see some visuals. I have a very visual mind. And so I expected to just see some kind of visuals, almost like a bird's eye view of looking at something. But the first thing that I felt was emotions. And then I saw this scene and I was sitting kind of behind the scene, if that makes sense. So the scene was actually on a beach, or not necessarily a beach, but more of like a pier, if you will. But there was like sand, and then in front of me was actually myself from a past life, as well as my daughter from a past life and my wife from a past life. And I looked completely different than I look now. I was a man. I had red hair and really fair skin. I was tall and I was really slender. And I was standing by this beautiful boat. And I knew that that was my boat. Just like I knew that that was my child and I knew that was my wife. There was just this knowing. And the little girl was playing close by, and my wife was sitting on the side of the boat. It's kind of hard to explain, but I hope I'm explaining that in a way that makes sense. So she was sitting on the side of the boat and her hair was blowing in the wind, and it was just a really beautiful day. I could tell by just looking at the visuals that I was seeing in my mind that we were wealthy, and I was an incredibly accomplished man. But it was the emotional experience that I was having in that past life and my past life wife was having that really, really stuck with me. She was just kind of looking out. So I never saw her face. She was looking out over the water, but I could feel her energy. My energy in that past life was this knowing of accomplishment, this knowing of success, but this feeling of deep unworthiness, just feeling like nothing I ever did or could do would be good enough for my wife, who was sitting on the boat next to me. And the energetic feelings or the emotional experience that I got from her was apathy. It was sort of this, it felt like she was in love with the idea of what I was supposed to be to her, or the life that she was supposed to have. She wasn't really in love with me. So here I am in a past life, trying to give my family the world, and also feeling just this deep sense of unworthiness. And I'll be really transparent with you. That feeling of unworthiness was so recognizable because it was very familiar. But up until this past life regression, I always thought that it was tied to childhood experiences. Like, I never imagined that this was something that I literally came into this lifetime with. So I'm sitting there and I'm really taken aback by the emotions that I'm feeling. And ultimately, I think it just became a little bit too much. And so I just kind of like came out of the experience. And I sat up and I wrote down what happened and, how I felt about it. And honestly, in that moment, I think I got a bit of closure, if you will. Closure in a sense that I understood that this feeling of unworthiness that I had been carrying wasn't really something that I developed in this lifetime. Maybe it was activated in this lifetime, but me healing that sense of unworthiness was going to heal past life experiences. And so for that reason, I felt incredibly grateful for the experience. At the same time, because I was so unprepared for the reality that it is an emotional experience, that our emotions are kind of what carries over from lifetime to lifetime, I was like, I'm not doing this again. Because you really don't have control over which lifetime you're going to peer into. You don't have control over the emotional experience that you're going to experience. And so for me, it was like, okay, I don't want to try this again and have an experience that I don't expect. But what the past life regression really did for me was it completely changed the way that I see relationships, both past relationships in this current lifetime, of course, and how I intend to relate in the future. Because while the wife in my past life regression was, a partner that I was looking at in a past lifetime, it was also, she felt familiar in a sense that I also knew her in this lifetime. And the same themes apply. This feeling of never being good enough, not being able to do enough to make the current lifetime person happy. So it made me realize that relationships are so much more deeper than the surface now that we give them. And they carry threads from the past. And not only that, but they create threads for the future. It made me realize how deeply impactful a relationship experience can be, to the point where it crosses over lifetimes for another person. So I would absolutely give it a try again. I think that there are many more things in my life. For example, being afraid to be seen. That wasn't really something that I struggled with until my spiritual awakening. Like, before that, I had no issue with being seen. But after that, there was just this unexplained fear that I had to work years to overcome. And I believe, without any proof yet, because I haven't done a past life regression again since that experience, but I believe that it has something to do with the past life. And for me, it liberates me from the story that I had been telling myself about where those feelings came from. It gives me more of a forest view perspective of my life experiences versus focusing on the tree of any individual experience. And I feel like because of that, it gives me my power back, and it gives me control over my healing journey. So if you have been considering doing a past life regression, I highly recommend it. However, go in understanding that you may just have an emotional experience that results in a knowing, or you may just see visuals and have an emotional experience, and just kind of understanding that those are things that you can't really control. But I would highly recommend it, and it is something that I see myself doing in the future, because that experience left a pretty deep imprint on my spiritual journey over the past 7 years. So Next week, I'm going to build upon that experience by sharing with you 7 truths that I learned after 7 years of inner work on my spiritual journey, because some of them were not as easily learned. If you've had a past life regression, please drop your experience down in the comments. I would love to read about it. If you have been considering doing a past life regression, but you're kind of nervous about it, you want to ask me more questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe and share. And I will see you next Tuesday.